farmer's market. Wading through a crowd of Saturday morning shoppers, a countryman wanders aimlessly through the market byways, distracted by the strange hairstyles of various city folk perusing used laptops in a nearby stall. Intrigued, he shimmies closer for a better look, but ends up stepping into a river of oncoming traffic. Caught up in the crowd, he realizes his 14-year-old son is no longer in sight and begins to panic, screaming his name. Walter! Walter! Somewhere under another pavilion, Walt strays through swaths of towering adults until he finds his way to a stall lined with adult magazines and salacious DVD covers with crazy euphemisms for titles. The boy picks up one and eagerly flips through it without shame. The stall master notices from afar, but lets him be, amused by the kid's reactions to the broads popping out of the page, assaulting his innocence. Meanwhile, under the roof of a small office trailer, not far off from the parking lot of the farmer's market, the property manager and their client, a fellow farmer, sit on leather sofas directly across from one another. In unison, both remove their cowboy hats from their heads and place them on their laps. Then the two begin to converse, telepathically. A horsefly, fluttering about, suddenly pops, crushed by the scaling air pressure generated by the swelling psychic energy in the room. 5 hours? That's a hell of a feast, the property manager says, smirking. The farmer nods and replies, hardly, but it's all I can afford for now. The property manager smiles humbly. It's an honor you choose my farm. We're a family business, provided since 1919. He gestures toward a wall of family portraits, accompanied by a collage of framed missing persons posters. Can I get you anything? The farmer declines. The property manager gives his guest a long look, and the two continue to sit in silence. Eyes glued to the first page of the magazine, time stood still for the boy as he attempted to wrap his mind around the mysterious confusion that he was feeling when suddenly he felt the feeling of prying eyes staring into the back of his head. The tiny hairs on the back of his neck stand up and a chill shoots down his back. He turns around immediately, making eye contact with a distant stranger standing in the middle of foot traffic, their body completely obscured by many passerby. The stranger glides closer toward Walt, sparing little breakage in eye contact, a visage focused solely on the boy. How are you? The stranger asks. The kid was a little confused and unsettled by the stranger's interest in him, and nervously replies with a lackluster hi and bye, making little to no eye contact during the action of excusing himself, when suddenly, bursting out of the crowd of people, came several decaying arms, seizing the boy's legs, arms, and throat, and begins pulling him closer to them. For several minutes, the boy is violently strangled behind a mob of ghostly figures easily mistaken for the living, barring him from escape and hiding the assault from onlookers too busy to notice. The boy's screams completely muffled under jubilant market commotion, then completely vanishes without a trace. It's none of my business, but Lord, am I curious. I wouldn't be able to sleep if I didn't ask. The property manager runs his finger across the felt brim of his hat, hesitating to ask the question his guest can see coming from a mile away. With nearly triple the allotted time my clients typically require, I can't help but wonder how you expect to remain at 2 bodies per hour is all. I mean, you're in here, they're out there. No handlers. And you know my fees will multiply exponentially should you... hyperextend our contractual agreement. All I'm saying is, you got a lot of trust in them. The guest nods. I understand your concern, but do not worry. They are simply just slow grazers, the farmer says. The father, now desperate, caring little about the people he tramples in his path, shoves and rustles through the pavilion, calling out for Walter. He then leaps up on a table of bootleg bags and footwear in hopes his son will see or hear him. And to his surprise, he spots his son through the crowd, looking directly at him, in fact. "Walt!" he screams, leaps off of the table, beelining toward him, but doesn't need to go any further because his son appears right beside him amidst a dense crowd of people idly standing about. With a voice not of his own, asks, "How are you?" Relieved but confused, the father kneels and reaches to hug his son but finds nobody to grab. Walt's face retreats deeper into the jungle of shuffling legs as the father stumbles through on his knees, struggling to grab hold of Walt, who is as fleeting as his disembodied voice echoing about. Walt again asks with a voice strange and not of his own, "How are you?" To which the father replies, "What is this? Who? What?" A ghostly mirage manifests into a mass of decrepit flailing arms reaching out from between the legs of shoppers and begin mercilessly pulling the father deeper into the abysm of the crowd. While struggling to gain his balance, all he could see were the floating faces of countless victims snatched away into oblivion who wanted nothing more than to bring him with them. The father resorts to screaming for help until cold, dead fingers drive themselves deep into his throat, gouging out his esophagus, and soon his entire body, as his corpse is dragged into obscurity. The property manager picks a fleshy giblet from between his teeth. My market is renowned for its diversity. Some may say a little too enticing, even for the most complex. It's not uncommon for my clients' dead stock to follow the food home. The farmer glances down at his watch, then back at the property manager. Hardly able to keep this accomplishment to himself, the farmer comes clean and explains that to label his dead stock as complex would be a harsh understatement. He leans forward, staring into the property manager's cold eyes. I've taught them to be quite, we'll say, curious. See, the way it works is if and surely when their curiosities are not quenched, then and only then, the farmer makes a strangling gesture on himself. The property manager looks intrigued and impressed as his neck elongates, making room for pulsating veins, and with unprecedented spasmodic glee and gusto, he lets out a demonic "yeah!" Soon joined by the farmer, crooning in unison for the remaining span of the farmer's market feeding. How are you? Some really want to know.